Let's set the scene. It's Monday, January 12th, 2026. You pull up your portfolio, and the market is just going wild. The volatility is enough to give you whiplash. And you're not alone. The entire geopolitical landscape is flashing red, signaling a huge shift is underway. So, let's break down what this chaotic future could look like, and more importantly, how you might navigate it.
You know, what we're talking about here isn't just another bad day for the Dow. The headlines are pointing to something way more profound. Some people are even calling it the end of the post-war order. Now, that's a dramatic phrase for sure, but it really captures the sheer scale of the change we're trying to get our heads around.
So the real question for you, for all of us, isn't just what's going on. It's how do you invest your capital when the very foundations of the global system seem to be fracturing right before our eyes? How do you find any kind of stability, let alone opportunity, in the middle of all this chaos? Well, that's exactly what we're here to unpack.
In this 2026 scenario, we're not dealing with just one isolated crisis. Oh no, we are tracking 5 huge, simultaneous shocks to the global system. Any one of these would be a major event by itself. But the fact they're all happening at once, well, that creates a perfect storm of uncertainty for investors.
Okay, let's get specific. Let's put these flashpoints on the map. First, you've got a regime crisis boiling over in Iran, putting global oil supplies at serious risk. Then, right here at home, a constitutional crisis erupts in Washington, with the Department of Justice targeting the Federal Reserve. Over in Venezuela, the Maduro regime suddenly collapses, which threatens to flood the market with oil. And as if that's not enough, 2 massive geopolitical moves. The U.S. announces it wants to acquire Greenland and, at the same time, pulls out of dozens of international organizations. The rules of the game are being completely rewritten.
To make sense of all this, because it's a lot, I know, we're going to group these 5 crazy events into 3 major shocks that are hitting your portfolio. First, an energy crisis, creating what we're going to call the energy barbell. Second, a direct threat to the US dollar's credibility. And third, what looks like the final nail in the coffin for globalization as we've known it.
All right, let's dive into that first one, energy. The market is getting yanked in 2 totally opposite directions at the same time, and that's creating insane volatility. This is the barbell we're talking about. 2 heavy opposing weights on either end of the spectrum.
So this barbell represents 2 powerful clashing forces. On one end, you've got Iran. A regime crisis threatens the Strait of Hormuz, which is a critical choke point for oil. If that closes, even for a little while, oil prices could spike violently, maybe past $130 a barrel. That's a massive inflationary shock. But on the other end of the barbell is Venezuela. The Maduro regime is gone, and its huge oil reserves are about to come back online. That creates a long-term supply glut, putting huge deflationary pressure on prices. See the push and pull?
So how on earth do you invest in an environment like that? Well, the barbell strategy actually gives us a pretty clear path. To hedge against the short-term chaos from Iran, you might look at calls on oil ETFs or maybe shares in big defense contractors. But for the long term, you invest in the other side, the reconstruction of Venezuela's oil industry. And that puts companies like Halliburton and Schlumberger right in the spotlight.
Okay, let's move to our second shock. And frankly, this might be the most dangerous one on the entire map. It's not about oil, it's not about geopolitics, it's about the very foundation of the modern financial system, simple trust in the US dollar.
Now, to really get why this is so critical, we have to talk about something called central bank independence. It sounds kind of academic, I know, but it's the bedrock principle that the Federal Reserve gets to make decisions based on economic data, not because a politician is breathing down its neck. It's the whole reason investors around the world trust the US dollar as a stable place to park their money.
So a DOJ investigation into the Fed chair, well, that would be seen by the markets as a direct assault on that very independence. The immediate fear would be that the Fed is about to be forced into cutting interest rates for political reasons, no matter what inflation is doing. And when faith in the world's reserve currency starts to crumble, the entire global financial system gets shaky.
So what's the play here? Simple. You need an insurance policy against your currency getting devalued. The analysis is pretty clear on this one. A 5 to 10% allocation to gold and other hard assets, physical, tangible stuff you can hold, it's not just an option anymore. It's essential risk management.
And all of this brings us to our third and final shock. And this one is a major structural shift. You see, those moves on Greenland and the UN, they're not random. They signal that the whole era of cooperative, friendly globalization is over, and a new, much more competitive era is beginning. So what's driving this? The move for Greenland isn't about ice. It's about locking down rare earth minerals for our tech and defense sectors and asserting dominance in the Arctic. And pulling out of international bodies?
That just means trade disputes aren't settled in courtrooms anymore. They're settled with tariffs and sanctions. Welcome to the new world of resource nationalism and aggressive deal-making.
This table here really spells out the strategic pivot you have to make. In the old world of globalization, the big winners were huge multinational corporations with these incredibly complex global supply chains. But in the new world of nationalism, the winners are domestic manufacturers, defense contractors, and companies that secure domestic resources, like North American rare earth miners. The biggest risk has shifted from economic to pure politics.
Okay, let's pull all of this together. We've talked through the crises. Now let's build a clear, actionable playbook. This is about how you position yourself for this new world order that's emerging right in front of us.
So here it is, the 3 core strategies for your playbook. Number 1, use the energy barbell strategy. Number 2, get some insurance against dollar instability by owning hard assets like gold. And number 3, invest in the nationalism theme by shifting focus from global supply chains to domestic champions in defense, resources, and manufacturing.
And one last piece of advice. The market is going to be messy for a while. In this kind of environment, holding cash is a strategic position, and having patience is an absolute virtue. Right now, the goal isn't to be a hero and try to catch every little bounce. It's to focus on survival and getting positioned for whatever comes next.
All of this really leaves us with a final and pretty provocative thought. As the world keeps fracturing into these competing blocks, we have to ask ourselves a really fundamental question about how we invest. In this new era, is survival the new growth?